What I normally do is I start out with my introduction and then we go into music and then I do my monologue, which is essentially textual analysis of the show. But I need to start out with some other stuff before that today because I am feeling a little bit in anguish in light of the shootings at in Atlanta. The shootings that took place in Atlanta last week that killed 6 Asian women, working women. Um, and I found it interesting because my emotional response to it was changing rapidly day by day. It started out on Tuesday with numbness. By Wednesday, uh, increased curiosity uh, and sadness. By Thursday, more sadness, but my desire to take care of my mental and emotional self. So I went on a long hike alone. And then by Friday, I was just angry. I was just really struck by the magnitude of white silence and complacency around this issue of Asian hate crimes. So I was aware of the uptick in Asian hate crimes this past year, which was very much fueled by Trump's hate speeches and the pandemic and the way that certain media outlets framed it. The same media outlets that are now covering this news of the shootings, they were just as much at fault for their emphasis on xenophobia. The same white people who were in my circles who were so amped up last spring with the Black Lives Matter movement and putting together charity things and organization, like, creating donation organizations and stuff. Like, those same people are not at all supporting the Stop Asian Hate movement. And that drove me insane Friday night. I thought I was losing my mind because I was like, how am I feeling these feelings and nobody else is? And I'm telling you this as somebody who got off Twitter and I refused to participate in the social justice activism on Twitter. Like, I was pulled out of it because it was causing migraines. There seemed to be no end to the ire and anger, and I just wanted some peace and quiet. And I am now sucked back into it full on because I'm mad at white people who don't understand that Black Lives Matter and Stop Asian Hate, that these movements are not about identifying our identities. It's about identifying your identity, your work in the colonization, the enslavement, the lynching, the murdering, the raping, the imperializing, the erasing of old ancient religions, the erasing of old ancient cultures and traditions and rituals and medicines. I was feeling sad also because I felt like we don't have somebody like Grace Lee Boggs to hold the light up for our community, somebody to turn to and seek advice from. And then a friend of mine, Helen Park, who's she's a brilliant mind and she's a brilliant heart. She reminded me, she's like, well, we have Grace Lee Boggs' legacy and her words. And I was like, fuck, I forgot. I have 2 of Grace Lee Boggs' books on my bookshelf. Why am I not looking at them? And I opened it up today and she said that our political systems and our political resistance in all its formations, and that includes marching, that includes these kinds of vocal political activisms. She said they're not effective. Give it up. She was like, give it up. Since the 2000 election, we should have given it up. There was no hope. And she says, grow our souls, right? And like for those of you who've seen the Grace Lee Boggs documentary, you know this phrase. She said we need to grow our souls. I find that incredibly liberating and beautiful. Last year, is it last year? Yeah, it was no, it wasn't last year. It was 2 years ago now, almost 2 years ago. In 2019 fall, I remember telling a friend of mine that I felt spiritually barren because even though my parents' parents were Buddhist, my parents became Protestant, like born again Christians, evangelical fundamentalist Christians, and they raised me on that. And then when I was like 21, I decided I'm an atheist, and that's how I remained since. But in 2019, I felt this spiritual barrenness. And so I started seeking spirituality and became more open to my dreams, became more open to psychedelic substances, became more open to art as a potential, I mean visual art, like painting and stuff, as a potential way of growing my soul. And that's how Grace Lee Boggs framed it. She said, one method of growing our souls is pursuing art, finding a creative pursuit or contributing to a creative pursuit. Like if you yourself don't draw, like look around, see what artists are in your local vicinity who can use your support, because they always need it, you know? I've had several conversations with people. I made several videos. And I feel greatly appeased. And I know that what I have is still something that matters. Part of the reason why I do this podcast is also it's connected to what Grace Lee Boggs said in terms of political activism. She said that political activism can also just be a conversation. I find that extremely helpful and heartwarming, like having these kinds of deep conversations, listening to one another, giving attention to another person fully, wholly, you know, and remaining open to the things that they say, remaining open and interested in their experiences and beliefs and values. That is really healing, you know. That can be a form of political activism, an impactful one. Because I'm not here to like change your mind about anything. I'm just interested in expanding my own. And I want to hear what you have to say. That's really it. Enjoy the show. Welcome to K-Drama School. I'm your host, Grace Jung, and class is now in session. Talk about a show called 별은 내 가슴에, also known as Star in My Heart, also known as Wish Upon a Star. And you can't find this show on Viki or on Netflix or wherever else you stream. You can't even find it on Drama Cool. You're going to have to look it up on YouTube. Look up Wish Upon a Star, and you will find this. It is a classic Korean drama that came out in 1997 on MBC. It was written by Kim Gi-ho. Because it was written by a man, the female characters are somewhat shallow. Not too problematically so. The drama, like the melodrama, is written more for the male characters, more so than the female characters, I would say. It's got some huge stars like jin-sil, oh my goodness, huge star. jae-wook, oh my gosh. Like this show kind of put him on the map as this Hallyu actor and Hallyu singer. He became especially popular in China after this show. Cha In-pyo was also huge, right? He plays like this middle management. No, he's more like an executive. He has like this executive role on this show. Jin-sil has she plays two roles actually. She plays Cha In-pyo's ex-girlfriend. She has long hair she wears color contacts, and she wears really thick makeup, and she's like a photographer, like a fashion photographer, and she plays like the doppelganger to Chijin-sil's main role, who is An Jae-wook's love interest. And she is of course an orphan. She is of course very talented but upright and moral and all this shit. Chijin-sil is an important Korean drama actress to talk about. She's been an actress for many years, like since 1990. She's been in films, she's been in television dramas. I saw her in this very long Korean drama called 폭풍의 계절, which came out in 1993. And she played alongside Kim Hye, but Choi Jin-sil was really great in that. And I just like when she committed suicide in 2008, I just found it extremely tragic. She had two young children at the time. She had an ex-husband. They had a really awful, contentious relationship involving money and cheating, and there was a lot of scandal associated with her and some domestic abuse, apparently. So there's a lot of sadness around Choi Jin-sil's career and personal life. And, you know, a lot of TV producers didn't want to work with her as a result of her scandals. In 2005, she came back to the small screen in a role for My Rosy Life, and that she won a huge award for because her performance was phenomenal in it. And I just remember watching like a variety show years ago, and she was like crying. I think it might have been Kang Ho-dong's like 무릎팍도사, the golden fishery thing that he used to do. I remember her just crying and just saying like she loves acting so much, and that, you know, not being able to act because she was marred by scandal was like such a heartbreak for her. And so to see her return to TV through these soap operas, I thought was a positive thing. But then unfortunately, she ended up dying in 2008. And so, yeah, it's somewhat tragic. What makes her life even more tragic is the fact that her ex-husband also committed suicide not too long after her death, and her brother also committed suicide. So they do have two young children. I mean, they had two young children at the time, and just, you know, imagine having like both of your parents dead to suicide, and, you know, and your uncle. You know, that's just too much death and life taking for small children. I find that especially sad. But Choi Jin-sil's performance is astounding. She's very good on this drama, and I think it's a classic. I think it's great. Everybody who's grown up in my generation, they know the song associated with 별은 내 가슴에, and we sang it a lot. We listened to it a lot. When I was watching this, I was just like looking at An Jae-wook's face and how his hair was just like covering his face so much, and how annoying it was. I was just like, can you please sweep your hair aside? It is poking you in the eyeballs. That can't be comfortable. For the love of God, spare us and just sweep your hair aside. In the late 90s, that was everybody's hair. I think I also had like, you know, two strings of hair that like fell across my face, like just two strands like this on each side. I think that was my thing. It's so embarrassing. Yeah, that was the hairstyle back then. So if you want to check out a classic Korean drama, this is the one to check out. So check out 별은 내 가슴에, or A Star in My Heart, or Wish Upon a Star. Today's guest is a very special guest. Her name is Hae-yeon Park. She and I met years ago in New York, where I was living, and we met while shooting a short film together. And she's a very talented actress and writer and director. She produced her own web series called Hae-yeon. She also produced another web series called Brooklyn PI, and I think it won a couple awards. Hae-yeon is also a writer, staff writer on HBO's High Maintenance. She was also an actor in that show, an amazing show. And she is about to embark on another journey for herself, for her life, for her creativity. And so I'm excited to talk to her about this stuff. And, you know, Hae-yeon is also special in that, you know, she grew up watching a lot of Korean dramas in Korea. And so and we talk about how some of the influences are very visible on her own projects. So I'm very excited to talk to Han. So let's get into it with Han Park.
How long
Hmm?
have you been in LA now?
Oh, this will be my 6th year.
Wow, and I think I know the answer to this. Do you miss New York or
Yeah,
elements of it?
of
Okay.
course I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All the time. I've only recently just started to like miss it a little bit less. I used to think about it all the time though. I still think about it all the time. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it both can be true. You can miss New York but still love living in LA.
Yeah. I think that was the issue. I didn't love living here. I really didn't.
Mm.
It took me a long time to acclimate and actually like it out here. Weren't you going to move out here?
I was out there for like 4 months,
Uh-huh.
and I was there for a job, so I really liked it. Like I had some friends, there was a
Yeah.
place to go.
Yeah.
Well, here's something I'm a little scared of. I'm gonna move back to Korea this summer.
What?
Move back for not permanently.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
number one, my parents need my help taking care of my dad, like his
Okay.
health. Yeah, so I'm gonna live with them in Busan for a little bit, and
Yeah.
I don't know, just this last year, I've been feeling like I genuinely kind of want to spend time with my family.
Yeah.
So do that, but I'm gonna try to like find a room to rent in Seoul and just kind of see what's out there in Seoul
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
Because last time I was living in Seoul, I was just getting drunk and vomiting on the street.
Yeah, that's yep. That's the 20s that you spend in Seoul. Like
I know,
you
and I
don't
want to
remember much of it.
revisit those vomit-laden streets and see what inspiration is out there when you're sober.
Exactly. When it's daylight, right? It's not like 7 a.m. daylight when you like crossed into the daylight from the night before,
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
a healthy, proper daylight. Yes.
yep,
And you
definitely.
went to Seogang, right? That's when you were living in Seoul?
Yeah, good memory. Yeah, I went to that school. I saw you talking about the Sky
Mm-hmm.
drama
Oh, Sky
with the
Castle. Oh my
Sky
God.
Castle. What year was that on? I don't think I like watched the whole thing.
Came out in late 2018, fall 2018.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
See, so with my relationship to K dramas have been, a huge fan of it when I was an actual child, like in the
Mm-hmm.
90s.
Yep.
I watched them like even in the early 2000s, but since I've been in New York, I haven't like watched all like the recent big ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because you don't go and rent them out on VHS tapes anymore, and it's not live broadcasting on your TV anymore. It's
I
like, where do you even
know.
find it? That was the question in the early 2000s, I
Well,
guess.
that's true, and now it's just everywhere. You turn
Everywhere.
to yeah, isn't that exciting and interesting?
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
last K drama that I really was emotionally invested in was Coffee
Oh,
Prince.
yeah. Classic.
Yeah, classic, classic.
Classic.
What would you say about this? Me and my friend Suan think that it's probably one of the most queer narratives in K drama,
Mm,
even though technically
yeah.
it's not queer.
Mm-hmm. It is a very queer narrative, and I would say for up until recently, it probably was. But there's a show that you must see. It's called Search WWW. It came out last year.
I see.
Im Soo-jung is in it, um, and a couple other women. But it's a very lesbian drama without. It's like, and I say this in the last episode, but it's not even a subtext. It's like very prominently a theme. It's very lesbian. Even the WWW, even though it
Aw.
stands for like World Wide Web and like there's all this coding, it's like actually woman, woman, woman. So it's like this lesbian thruple love triangle situation between these three women, and the men, even though they force in this heteronormative narrative by giving the women like male partners. It's like they're very much like on the margins, and like this really the obsession and the tension is all about the three women.
I see. Are
And
they all
yeah,
coders?
they're actually executives working at like a search engine company, similar to like Naver and Taum, you know. It's
Gotcha, gotcha.
they play fictionalized versions of that. And Naver was the first corporate Korean company to hire a woman as a CEO. So
I did not know
I
that.
think that also has
Interesting.
something to do with the inspiration behind this. And it's got like it's very intense matriarchal energy as well. Um, and in 2020, uh, a lot of Korean dramas have been inserting queer characters in them.
Itaewon
Itaewon's
School,
a
is
big
that the
one.
one?
Dinner
Mm-hmm.
Mate is another. Record of Youth is another. Um, and
I have gone on the Park Bogum train
oh my God, yeah.
recently too
Mm-hmm.
because of,
He's great.
yeah,
Yeah,
my Chinese friend just like got obsessed with him a few years ago, and
he's
so
great.
yeah, I did finally watch Reply 1988.
How good is that show?
It's very good.
How good is that show?
Very good. Exactly. I watched that in smack in the beginning of the quarantine.
Oh, so
That
good.
sense of like, yes, neighborhood people taking care of
Yeah.
each other.
Raising the children together,
Yeah.
feeding the same food because they pass around the dishes.
Yeah. In no sense, like, yeah, it was a nostalgic piece, but it felt quite radical the way it was showing their family lives and how they
Mm-hmm.
raise their children.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. Like, the mothers are always sitting outside on that like veranda thing and just, like, you know, just doing like prep work with like 콩나물 or like whatever else, just
Yeah.
working to feed and to chat, just shoot the shit kind of,
Shoot
you
the
know.
shit. And also, you know, I know a lot of people try to shy away from like talks about money and finances with friends,
Mm-hmm.
but what I really liked was they kind of had a system. The wealthiest one
Yep.
was very open to like sharing the wealth.
Yep. It's very
Um,
socialist. Yep.
and I like that they were like pretty naughty too. The ajumas would get into a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sexy talk
Sex
too.
talk, yeah. Yeah, it was just like right there in your face. And yeah, I agree. Like because, back then in the 80s, like Korea wasn't, even like the whole like 1988 Olympics, like, in the first episode when Hitty's like so excited to be doing the Madagascar like, girl to be holding up that sign, like her older sister Pora, who goes to Seoul National and who is a radical protester activist herself, she's like, "Do you have
Yeah.
any idea what kind of damage the Olympics are inflicting upon our country and our people and our society, because of the forced gentrification and this whole force of like displaying Korea Seoul as a developed nation, which wasn't anywhere near that economically at the time."
It was like, oh my God, we've procrastinated. I mean, not that they have, but it was just giving like this fake deadline.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
like, all right, we got to get rid of all the dog meat restaurants.
Clean up all the shit.
Burn them down. The French actresses are coming for us. I guess we would call it like performative
A
gentrification and
hundred percent.
development.
A hundred
Yeah.
percent. There's no way around it. And to this day, Korea's still like that. They're a global trendsetter for a reason. It's because people suffer in order to put on that kind of display at all times. People repress and suppress and oppress in order to put on that kind of display at all times.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Hey, have you seen a movie called Hummingbird by Kim
No,
Bora?
I haven't. It's a
Ooh,
woman made
so
it.
it's yes, Bora Kim. I met her when she was doing her grad program in Columbia. I auditioned for her briefly,
Mm.
and then I just kind of kept my eye on her. But yeah, that was her first feature film. It actually won
Nice.
a lot of awards. I think you would love it. I
Okay.
was. It really gave me a lot of hope in a sense that, wow,
Yeah.
yes, there are femme filmmakers in Korea doing their thing.
Mm-hmm. So she's
Yeah,
Korean
check.
American or she's Korean, like fob
She's
Korean?
Korean. She like
Okay.
grew up in Korea and
Got it.
came here for grad
Grad
school.
school. Okay.
But yeah, Hummingbird.
Okay. And it has
Hummingbird.
distribution?
I believe so. It
Okay.
had a run in Korea. Like their whole festival run was, I think, 2019.
Okay, so it should be out
2019,
there. All
yeah.
right, I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool, cool. Because it's set in the 90s, very
Oh,
much in that
sweet.
time.
Oh, I love that. That I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You moved out of Korea in the 90s, didn't you?
So my journey's a little interesting because I was going to elementary school and middle school in the 90s, and then like 98 to
Oh,
2001, our family was in Maryland.
wow. In
Yeah.
Maryland. Good God.
Yeah. And then back to Korea for rest of high school and college.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You bounced
So,
back and forth a lot. Yeah.
but I've been away from Seoul from like 2006 until
Mm.
now, only visits.
Mm-hmm.
And now my whole family's in Busan, so I don't even really stop by Seoul these days when I visit.
Right. That's interesting that they relocated to Busan, or is your 고향 Busan?
고향 is Busan.
Is it
So
really?
my whole mom's side of the family is there, and
Oh.
yeah, they had an apartment there. My grandpa had an apartment there that my parents moved
Oh.
into.
Where in Busan?
So, what neighborhood is? They first lived in Haeundae, and now they live in Bumpo,
Okay.
Bumporo. Yeah,
Mm.
like in one of those. Oh, close to Gwangalli,
Okay.
like close to the beach. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. I was actually born in Busan. I think I mentioned this.
Oh, yes,
But yeah,
yes.
I grew up in 동네 Busan.
Oh my God, that's where
Mm.
my dad's maternal grandparents' side lived. So we
Nice.
called them 동네 할머니.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I went back in 2000 maybe 9 or 2010. I went back to 동네 for the first time since I left in 92.
Is it pretty gentrified now?
It is gone. Like everything I remember is completely gone. I remember like there was this 시장 there. It was like very
Yeah.
narrow. They had these orange like how do you say? Like these like
Awnings?
not awnings but like this like it's like a bag, like an orange bag thing that looked like a
Mm,
roof almost. And I just
mm.
remember that orange like color so vividly and brightly. And yeah, all the little 골목길, it was all gone.
I remember having to get to our grandparents there, just like having to drive through these
So
really narrow
narrow, super
alleys.
narrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a mountain very close by that my dad and I used to go hiking, and we would get like water from. You know, they had the little
Mm.
um,
Spring water, right?
spring
Like,
water. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
hmm
Now
hmm
you also have grandparents in the rural area.
Yeah. Yeah. They live in Hapcheon.
Oh,
So
I loved seeing your photos
yeah.
that you took from there.
Yeah. I still miss that place a lot. And I remember like I stayed there for just a couple weeks. I was supposed to not even a couple, like I think 1 week. I was supposed to stay for just one night. And
Mm,
then I just told my emo, I was like, just go home. I'll just stay here and then I'll take a bus back because I just want to spend time with them. And
mm,
like I was just cooking meals for them. That's all I did, and just clean,
mm.
just general housekeeping. But it would take up a
Yeah,
whole day just cooking for the elderly and making sure that they get their food on time when they expect it to be there.
yeah,
It's so
yeah,
important for seniors to have like routine like that, just like it's important for
yeah.
children to have that routine. And yet,
And also important for senior cats, which is my
and
situation
animals,
now.
yeah, dogs, cats, they all need routine. And yet in my life, I have zero routine and regularity. It's like my past and future and the critters around me all have routine, and yet I don't. It was a big wake up call for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When was the last time you visited them? Or last time you were even in Korea?
Yeah, I was there in 2018 to 2019, just like from fall to winter, just one
Nice.
season. And that's when I was watching Sky
Yeah.
Castle live on JTBC on Friday. It was like, oh my God, that show was so fucking intense. But yeah.
I love that these cable channels and even web series,
hmm
a lot of like radical content happening in Korea in terms
Yes.
of yeah.
There's a researcher, I think she's at UT Austin. She's Korean. and she wrote about like the web content in Korea
Mm,
and how they had all these speculations that it's gonna be like the next huge thing, because it doesn't have censorship laws like television does. That's
right.
why they can be edgy,
Yeah.
curse, do whatever. But
Yeah.
sadly, Netflix has infiltrated Korea since 2017, and they're producing original content. Like when it says Netflix original, it's not always original. It's usually JTBC or TVN or KBS or MBC
Like, is it a collab then? Do they get
distributing.
involved just in the distribution
I They just buy
stuff?
out they just acquire the rights, the streaming rights for it, but they acquire it exclusively, and that's what gives it the original label. But then original Netflix produced Korean TV shows, there's only two. There's Kingdom, that zombie show,
Right.
and then the show called Extracurricular.
Okay, I saw both of them.
Dude, how stressful were they?
Kingdom, I like really loved, and I watched with a bunch of friends
Hmm.
on FaceTime.
Yes.
And but yeah, extracurricular was extremely extra
So stressful.
stressful. It
So
was like,
stressful.
okay, yeah. I usually binge stuff, but I could not binge that
I
one.
agree. I had to really like, taper. I had to be like, okay, like all right, this is enough for now.
Yeah,
Yeah, super
yeah.
stressful. And you know who the writer's mother is?
No.
Is the writer of Moreshige.
So it's a two generation
Two
TV
generation.
writer.
Yeah. And
Wow.
extracurricular is written by a man, which
Wait a
is
minute. I thought extracurricular. So the writer of
is a
extracurricular is a
man.
man, and then his
His
mother
mother
is the writer
wrote
of More.
Sandglass. Yeah.
Wow.
And for the listeners, like the writer who wrote Sandglass, I forget her last name, but her first name is China. I think it's Yijina or something.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that sounds very
And
yeah.
she's like huge, like she's like a huge
She's
showrunner in
been
Korea.
huge.
Mm.
Yeah. Wow. I'm curious if writers like Kim Soo-hyun and No Hee-kyung are
Hmm.
getting knocked on their doors for from Netflix too. I'm not
I
sure.
think what's happening is they're being like their content is being acquired for exclusive rights by Netflix.
Yeah,
I know that, yeah. Yeah, so that's what's happening. I don't know
gotcha.
if like, but I mean, I have a lot of issues with that because Netflix will not buy out all the music rights. So if you did you watch Untitled on Netflix or on Demand Korea or something else?
I
Viki?
watched on Viki.
On Viki? Okay.
Yeah.
So Cocoa is the distributor for the Viki and Netflix version of Reply 1988. And I noticed that they removed a lot of the original music cues and some of the sound effects. They removed entire scenes because
Uh-huh.
they didn't get music rights clearance.
I see.
And it's like the whole Reply series depends so much on music,
Yeah,
music
very much
to
so.
trigger that nostalgic past and that memory. And it's like,
Now, I have a question about
mm,
that show. The whenever they would cut to like commercials playing, is why have it if everything's gonna be blurred out?
um, yeah, with the you mean like when the camera turns to like the television set and they blurred out the commercials and the
Yeah, so
movies,
many of them were
that
blurred
also
out.
has to do with the clearance. So they did not do their due diligence and get the clearance for the
You
music.
mean when they were even shooting the when in the original production, you
In
mean?
the original production, all of it is there. It's there.
Okay.
So like I watched that on Demand Korea. And On Demand Korea, they just take whatever was broadcast in Korea and they extract it and they just put it into the streaming
Okay.
with no subtitles oftentimes. So like since you and I are fluent in Korean, you could just use On Demand Korea to watch
Yeah.
it and you'll see the original version without all the blurring and the censoring and
Gotcha.
the erasure of the music and erasure of the content. Like the Reply 1994. Have you seen Reply 1994?
No, I'm probably gonna watch the 1997 one next.
Oh yeah. Though I mean both of them are great. They're great,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, Reply 97 came out first and then it was 94 and then it was 88. And you'll see like the quality of it kind of, there's a big difference in terms of the quality of
Mm.
production value and quality because of the at the time, cable was still relatively new when 97 came out. They didn't really believe in this project. They didn't really believe in the writer and director.
That's right.
By 88, the editing is like so sophisticated and like
Yeah.
bigger
Very, very
actors
good.
and all that shit. But yeah, I just watch the original version on demand Korea, I would say, because
I didn't know about this platform, On Demand Korea.
yeah, my mom watches a lot of her shows on demand Korea because
Gotcha.
they air it in Korea, and then 24 hours after that airing period, it's available on demand Korea. But
Is it subscription based?
it's subscription based, yes, but you could watch it for free with ads.
I see.
Um, but like
I
I
welcome ads. I like to have
yeah.
moments where I can go pee,
Yeah,
get
get a
a
bite to
snack.
eat. Yeah. On-demand Korea is great, but the issue with on-demand Korea is like they're very unstable. And a lot of these streaming platforms is unstable because like I'm committed to watching like a variety show, for instance, right? Like I was really into
Mm-mm.
watching You Quiz on the Block with Yoo Jae-hook,
Ooh.
and they fucking got rid of it like after a few episodes into season 2 because like not enough people were watching. But I'm watching. I'm watching. I want to see it, but they would just get rid of their shit like without any announcement beforehand. They would just get rid of it, and that instability is like that drives me insane. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I'm envious
Uh-huh.
of your position of going to Korea and getting to watch You Quiz on the Block regularly. But yeah, you did web series. You made a couple web series.
Yeah, I made web series. One kind of like an autobiographical. I think I was trying to work out some, just anything we make is just something we're trying to make sense
Yes.
out of in our heads, and
Mm-hmm.
that one was like me in my rage stage.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about the
Um,
Heian version?
yeah, the Heian web series, that was like, I called it. It's a comedy about an angry, whimsical Korean woman, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was, I did that DIY, and then yeah, that's what kind of got me started. That was like one of my first attempts to like, okay, I've trained as an actor now, like I wanna try making stuff.
Yeah, produce and
Yeah,
direct and all of that. I
yeah,
really
it
liked that
was.
show actually. I
Thank
remember like
you.
I think the first episode you're like brushing your hair. You just throw the hairbrush. I was just like, this is so funny. This is great. And you have training in clowning, right?
Self-taught,
Mm,
self-taught, but I used to do a lot of burlesque performances as my clown character named Ancient Toddler,
mm,
because she's kind of like a fucked up toddler, but
mm-hmm.
with a lot of wisdom, ancient wisdom.
Yes, I like it. Yeah, I have a couple other friends who are in show business. They also have clown training. They perform clown, and yeah, their whole like philosophy behind clowning is like so interesting. I love it. Yeah, the whole
Yeah,
rationale.
yeah. When I was really going hard on doing that and making up acts, like it was like I was possessed by some force.
Hmm.
And you're still in your PhD program as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's wrapping up. It's wrapping up very soon. I'm gonna finish in
Nice.
June, so
Congratulations.
thanks. Yeah.
Wow, 박사학위. You did it.
Yeah,
The
I know, right?
ultimate Korean dream, to get that PhD.
It's honestly, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's a big deal for some, but like for me, it's not. I mean, it's a big deal in the sense that like, my parents didn't go to college, so it's a big deal
Mm.
in that sense. But like, neither of my parents really think that it's a big deal that I'm getting a PhD. Like,
Mm.
honestly, my dad, he said, I remember I was like 17 and I was more interested in painting my nails than doing math, and my grades were very average, and
Mm.
he's like, just forget about college and just go to 군대, just join the U.S. Army. And I was like, what? Like, what kind of thing is that to say to your daughter? Like, we're on a full-on war. This was in 2004 when like
Oh my God.
U.S. was like in a full-on state of war in the Middle
Yeah.
East, and
He
you're
wanted you off to Iraq.
just ship me off to die.
Yeah.
He's like, you're better off dead than going to college and wasting my money. And I'm just like, like, 외할아버지 said the same thing to 엄마, you know, like because my mom didn't go to college. Um, she barely finished high school even. Like she was sent off to work at a factory. She was a yagong. She was sent off to work at a factory when she was like 14, 15 years old.
Uh-huh.
Her and her
Uh-huh.
older sister, and they would work during the day, and then they would like sort of splice in like lessons during, and they
Yeah.
also had dorms to live in. So they were literally shipped off away from home, and like to this day I think my mom has damage from that, you know, like.
Uh-huh.
And for
Because
my
you're
dad,
still young and you're abruptly separated by your family and
yeah, when you're a teenager, and you know, like they grew up in an agrarian household where everybody slept together in the same rooms and ate together in the same rooms
mm,
and worked together all day, and she had like a bunch of sisters and brothers, and then to like just ship her off like that alone as a child is like fucked up. And my dad was saying the same thing. It's like, forget about school. Because my grandfather didn't believe in education and girls. You know, my grandfather's very patriarchal, sexist in that
mm,
way, you know? And my dad was pretty much saying the same thing to me. And I remember my mom interjecting and be like, and she never did. You know, my mom was a huge fucking pussy when it came to my dad, oftentimes, you know, a pushover. And I always, to this day, I have a lot of issues with that. But like, um, when my dad was like, just forget about college, you know, either go to join the US Army or just like come work for my company. And my mom was like,
mm.
no, she's gonna go to college. And I'm glad she said that because, you know, when you're 17, like you're very easily swayed into doing things that you don't fully know about or believe in.
Yeah. I mean, when I thought you were gonna say your dad was like, you know what? If you don't like studying, just like go to beauty school, become a nail artist.
Yeah.
But those were different times. His brain went to war.
His brain went to war. War? What kind of money can I get out of her death potentially? Or, you know, what honor? Because like we were also undocumented for so many years, you know? And like I think maybe that also has something to do with it. Anyway, it was like fucked up, and so like
Yeah,
getting a
it's
PhD for me is like a big fuck you to him, you know?
I mean, huge,
Yeah.
huge. I love it. I love it. I mean, I'm coming to a part in my life where when I think about our past. I think the first time we hung out, we just like dove deep into intergenerational trauma, and now I try to like piece together the narrative of like, okay, they were so hell bent on trying to create some kind of stability for us that
Mhm.
any kind of present happiness just went out the door.
Went out, yeah. Trying
Yeah,
to
future
survive
stability.
on a
Yeah,
day-to-day. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, I think being working class, you know, uneducated, not knowing the language, being in a new country and having young kids in tow, I think all of that will, it's a formula, it's a recipe for this kind of stuff. After you did Heian, you did
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn PI,
Yeah, I made
BKPI.
another web series about three women friends who kind of accidentally become PIs
Mm-hmm.
by solving a crime in a bodega. And then they just kind of so this was we shot this in 2016 in the summer
Mm.
before the election. And yeah, just this sense of like, okay, there are communities that don't get the attention that they need, and
Mm-hmm.
just them DIY style trying to solve issues and conflicts in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So that web series I made with Super Deluxe,
Mm-hmm.
a company who that's no longer with us, but
Mm.
yeah. It was really fun. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed making that and meeting new friends.
Yeah, it was a hilarious show. I remember
Oh, thank
like
you.
a couple scenes. Like there was one scene when you guys catch a he was like like a sexual assaulter or something,
Yeah,
and
he was a flasher.
he was a flasher. That's such a okay, see, this is what I mean. You have these very like deeply Korean things that are embedded into your work, and I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just there, but like this whole notion of the flasher, like the pabari ajushi, the pabari man, is like very
Yeah.
much like in our it's in our consciousness as a
Yes.
culture in Korea.
Totally. No, I think I really enjoy embedding those details in there. Even like in the just like a shot where it's just passing me by, like I'm playing like kongi
Yes.
on
Yes.
the deli floor. So no, I think you're my prime audience for
Yeah.
those little
Yeah.
secrets embedded
Yes,
in
those are the
there.
secrets. Those are the secrets for the Koreans, who get it, who
Yeah.
see it. And for a very specific demographic of Koreans living in America, or like the 1.5 generation Koreans, or like the FOB Koreans.
Yeah.
It's a very specific demographic. And then even like the scene when I think it was like one of the last episodes of BKPI, but like you're at a stranger's house or an apartment and your stomach starts growling and you're like, oh shit, I have to use
Yes.
the bathroom. And I'm like, this is such a Korean moment. Like, this
Oh,
is
tell me more about that. Is
because
it? You mean
it
in terms
is.
of the?
It is in terms of like the stomach going kororok, making that sound, and then they're like, "Oh shit, I have
Yeah.
to take a poop right now, like right now, no matter what it takes, they have to take a shit." And it's like for Koreans, like we see it in every sitcom, we see it in like a lot of Korean dramas too. Like they're very open about shitting and pooping.
I mean, I
Even
think that is a big part of our
it
culture, like
is
being candidly talking about that.
about pooping and digestion
Yeah.
all the
I
time.
think a lot of Americans at this point are kind of aware of that that quality in Korea in
You think
Koreans.
so?
I mean, I've been a lifelong philosopher of poop. I just felt very comfortable always talking about
Yeah.
it. I don't go to the extent of sending photos of my
Yeah,
own
no,
poop to
my
people, no.
goodness. It's not
But
necessary.
I when when I catch up with a friend, I ask them like, how you doing? How you been sleeping? How you been pooping?
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah, those are important questions, life questions,
I mean,
Doctors ask those questions too.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is a very Korean moment. It's similar to the kongi and it's similar to the pabari men.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I in the morning before I leave the house, if I'm not able to, like since I turned 30, like if don't release it in the
Mm,
morning,
yeah.
something bad's gonna happen. So
It's a
I
bad omen.
always, before any kind of commitment, I make sure that okay, in order to show up there,
Yeah.
or even if it's like a Zoom situation,
Yes.
like okay, must poop
Must poop.
beforehand.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Something got to take care of beforehand. Yeah.
I was watching some of the clips of your stand up and I love this, you have this swagger and like groundedness, and like I love the quality of your voice when you're like really like getting people into the story. No, I'm really like very inspired by you.
Oh, thank you. Very kind of you to say. Yeah. No,
No, and you
yeah.
love it, right?
Oh, of
You love,
course, yeah.
yeah.
Nothing.
Well, here's the thing. Inspired by you,
Mm,
when I do go to Korea
mm.
and when I spending some time in Seoul, I want to try to hit up some open
Do
mics
it.
there.
I'll put you in touch with some of the people I know.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing. Because I saw that there is a scene there.
There's a
It's kind of
scene.
a new because stand-up comedy is not a traditional kind of form in
Mm.
Korean pop culture.
It's a
Yeah.
very new form, but actually, Korea did have stand-up comedy in like the 30s, in the 20s and 30s.
Ooh.
Yeah, they used to make record albums.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Would it be with like in a kind of form of pansori or
No,
just one
they
person?
called it
Okay.
mandam back then. Mandam. And
Mandan.
later on, like in the 50s and 60s, it transformed into more of like a two-person act or three-person act. And that's why
I see.
today on variety shows you have a huge panel of people up there together as a group. There's an ensemble cast and all that shit. But like
Yeah.
before that, it was just one guy with a mic on stage, cracking people up, doing jokes,
Amazing.
punchline,
Yeah.
punchline, punchline. And like even during the Korean War, and then when like when the US soldier before the Korean War, when the US soldiers arrived and they
Mm.
were occupying Korea in the 19 like after 1945, after Korea's liberation from Japan, like when the
Yeah.
US soldiers just reoccupied all those spaces, there was
Yeah.
a mandam performer who was just like making fun of uh American soldiers, and then he got canceled by the
Wow.
government. Like the government made him illegal, made his
Mm.
record sales illegal, and then he became like a 월북 person. He just left South Korea, went to the north. Yeah,
I'll look it up.
there's this whole history with mandam. And then, today people
Mm.
think of mandam as like banter between two comedians. They they say they remember from like radio times and then early TV times, and that's true. But like mandam was also a solo performance as well. And then all of that went away. It disappeared because again of like censorship and suppression.
Yes,
And then
especially when we had those in the 70s and
the
80s with the
military dictatorships.
dictatorships.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but political entertainment was always kind of there. It was always kind of there, and then they try to implement it into variety shows, but then like that also started to suffer from censorship, and now variety TV you hardly have any political talk whatsoever. But then podcasts and radios started to do their own thing with political banter, so
Yeah.
it's always there. I mean, some form of stand up act is always kind of there. It's just this concept of going to a comedy club, listening to one person on stage with a mic, just doing joke after joke, punchline after punchline. That's relatively novel to contemporary Korean society. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of
And I
like,
like that it's a
mm,
lot of like Korean Americans who like expats who not expats, Korean Americans who come back and like do their acts in English and in Korean.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
very few people do that. I've done it in both languages. Danny Cho, he's actually an LA comic, and he moved
Yeah,
out to Korea a few years ago, and
I
he's
saw like a little documentary on him.
yeah, yeah,
Danny Choi, that's right.
Danny Cho,
Cho.
CHO. Yeah, 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 yeah. He's from East LA. He born and raised in East LA, like Boyle Heights area, I think.
Oh yes. I
Yeah,
remember
and
that.
I remember watching his video clips when I was like in college, and I was just watching
Mm.
YouTube clips, and then like shortly after I
Aw.
met him, like he moved to fucking Korea, and I think he like signed up with an agent out there, and he did a couple of variety shows, and
Nice.
like they were trying to redress him like into this like fobby looking fat boy prince. It was like so bizarre and hilarious, but
Interesting.
yeah, there was a comedy club in Korea in Gangnam for like less than a year. They were hemorrhaging money. They completely shut down. But the guy who opened that club, I think he lived in the United States for a little while. So he has this understanding and concept of what a comedy club is, and I think he had this vision for it, but unfortunately opened it up in Gangnam, which is very expensive, and
Yeah, that's a hard
it
sell.
is, like
Yeah.
Itaewon, I get, all right,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Gangnam, why, like,
I mean, but also even in Gangnam, if something gets popular, I think Koreans like really like get on top of it
yeah,
too, so it just has to
but it
but
needs to
I
be elegant and it needs to be expensive and sophisticated. But like, comedy club scene isn't elegant and expensive and
no.
sophisticated. It might be
I think
expensive.
it loses its essence if the venue is too fancy
Yeah,
like that.
it's a base form of art, performance art. It's base. It's for the people. It's not about dressing up and going out somewhere, But that's
Right.
the scene in Gangnam. So there were a lot of contradictions going on. But the upside to that was I got to see a lot of Korean stand-up comics doing their act, and
How were they? Yeah.
quite a few used to be variety show like sketch comics. Like the people who
Like
started
개그
out in
콘서트 folks.
yeah, 개그 콘서트, or yeah. A couple of them were 개그 콘서트
I
alums.
see.
Yeah.
And they're doing like either like punchline, one-liner jokes, or kind of were there people doing long form kind of storytelling style
Most of them
comedy?
were doing long form storytelling comedy. That's the thing. Actually, if you ever sign up for On Demand Korea, you can check out this thing called Stand Up, which is on it's like a Korean version of like HBO, like stand up special, where
Mm-hmm.
all these variety like sketch and variety show comedians who've been doing it forever, like Bang Nare, like Bang Misan, these people,
Yeah.
they do quote unquote stand up, but it's really just them talking. And they don't have set up punchline like it should, you know? Like in the States and in the UK where stand-up comedy has a longer history, they know that like laughs per minute, right? That's what we're striving for. As many laughs per minute as you can. So set up punchline, or punchline tag 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 tag. Like that's how you want to get into it,
Right.
but they're they're sketch comics, you know? They had writers for them, or they also helped conceive of the sketch together. And it's not stand-up comedy. It's different. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes watching it can be a little frustrating. In fact, 박나래, she has a stand-up comedy special on Netflix.
I Pangnara is
Yeah.
kind of like she's not skinny, thin.
She's
She's a little
short and
rounder.
stout.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I
Yeah.
I watched her in some kind of other reality show, and I was very charmed by her.
Those she's great in. She's great at like on the spot, on the cuff riff improvising like in real time. She's great at that. But when she did her Netflix stand up special, this bitch was reading off fucking monitors. Like you could see her
No.
reading off of monitors on the stage, and I'm just like, dude, come on. Like that to me is like so offensive as a stand up. I'm like, this is a disgrace, you know? Like part of the whole task of being a comic is like the potential that you might forget your lines, you might forget your act. That's the risk you go up on stage carrying. And she's up there reading from these monitors, and you could see her eye line like going down on the monitors. And I was just like, what are you doing?
Uh-oh.
And then
Yeah.
Netflix was gonna do their first ever comedy festival in Los Angeles, and Pangnare was fucking booked at the Wiltern Theater in K Town,
Wow.
and she was gonna do her special there. Now I was
Did
gonna.
it end up, was this supposed to happen in
It was
2020?
supposed to happen in May 2020, and all of it, of course, got canceled.
Oh my god, would you ever heckle like
No, never.
그만 좀 읽지?
It's a whole culture that's not fully transferred over to South Korea at the time, but there's definitely a scene. There's definitely some things happening. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to go. And the people who are there are really wonderful. Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I mean, that's what, like, my college friends in Korea are like, why would you come back to Korea? Like, it's probably much better there. And I'm like, I just want to go see and meet some people. Why does everything have to be so, like, oriented towards, like, a career
I
goal?
agree.
Let me be, God damn it.
And this whole like journey back to Korea is also part of your lived experience and your creative experience that could
It's a
potentially
big
become.
homecoming.
Yeah.
It's a
That's
big
it's
homecoming,
another
yeah.
it's another pilot, or it's another movie, or it's another web series as far as I'm concerned, you know. And you're going to be
Yeah.
in a wonderful city, Busan, you know.
Busan is great. And so I've been trying to connect with um folks in Korea on Instagram. Like I found this artist who has actually Seoul School of Burlesque. There's a school burlesque school in Seoul.
Yeah.
Because I love
Yeah.
I know a bunch of like erotic performers who are in Asia,
Yeah.
and then some plus size modeling has
Nice.
started happening. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that. And I
Get
don't know. I
into
think
it. Yeah.
art and this type of like stand up comedy in particular, I
Hmm.
wonder if that's a place where Korean diasporic communion can happen.
It can. It can.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, just there's definitely an expat community there. I know Busan definitely has a stand-up thing, like an expat stand-up scene.
Really?
Yeah.
When you say, sorry, expat, what does that mean
Means
exactly in this case?
like any American or
We're,
Scottish or Irish or
I see.
British
Who live
person
there now?
who now lives in Korea. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so that means I could actually, that's new information for me. So in Busan, I could even hit up some
Huge
mics.
scene. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's
Okay.
just one. I think it's called The Hole. It's called The Hole. Yeah. And it was at a bar in, I think, in Haeundae. Yeah. So
Nice.
it's easy to find. Yeah. I did
Okay.
a show there with some of the. There were some Korean women who speak English very fluently
Uh-huh.
because they lived in the U.S. for college or high school or something,
Yeah.
or in Australia or whatever. And so they speak both languages. So we were doing it in English. We did a English stand-up show in
Nice.
Busan. Yeah,
Oh, thanks for this intel. I'm
yeah,
excited. Yeah.
yeah. You can definitely do both. I would say do
Mm-hmm.
both, and
Mm.
there is a scene. I was watching High Maintenance during the pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I
Have you
love
seen the
that
show
show.
beforehand?
No, no, no. My friend Erica, she's a comic in Berlin. She was like, check out High Maintenance. And I was like, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. I kept putting it off. And then, pandemic time. And I was like, I got no excuses. So I started watching it and I was so into it. Like
It's a
so,
great
so
show.
it's like the ideal show for me. It's like, yes, no like through line, no consistent narrative, just random people all the time, every episode, spontaneity, newness, freshness, reset, reset, reset. I was like, I'm into it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, they're all like separate shorts.
Yes.
Have you seen their what like when their episodes when they were just making it on their own?
The web series that originated. I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't.
Oh my God, some of those are even like yes, of course, HBO budget cool, but like
Yeah.
some of those are like even more brilliant actually.
Okay.
Because
I'll check them
I
out.
was watching that show when I was trying to make my web series Hey On, and like
Ah.
oh my God, look at these guys. I even like tried to like make my website kind of copying off of their website.
Nice. And then you get
Yeah.
to perform for them and write for them.
Yes, so for their season 3, I was in their writers' room briefly, in their brainstorming stage, and then I ended up playing a role in one of the
Yes.
episodes.
You were in a
So
couple
that was
episodes I saw.
yes, I was. I first was worked with them as an actor. I auditioned for it, and then yeah, it was a really cool experience. And I was already such a fan of the show,
So good.
and I became a stoner kind of around the time I started working for that show.
Yeah,
So
makes
for me,
sense.
it's almost has a little bit of like a spiritual hunch to it, like
Yeah.
Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you
Timing.
somebody who enjoys the greens?
I'm in LA and it's like
Oh, that was my favorite part. Those
land of the
dispensaries,
free,
man.
right? Land of the free. But I don't really take advantage of it that much. I started because I don't like to smoke. I don't like to inhale smoke because I quit cigarettes a bunch of years ago and I don't really like to smoke. So
Mazel tov.
I started doing edibles like around 3 years ago because I had really bad insomnia. And then
Oh,
yeah, and but like I don't really like to do weed that much because it makes
it's not
me,
for you.
well, it just kills my motivation too much. Yeah.
Ah,
I
I
also
see.
get migraines, so for migraines it's amazing. But then the whole day is gone. Like I'll just be stoned and I'm just like gonna
Interesting.
be out. I'm not gonna be working at all. But then the recovery from that, like the day after I was stoning, or a couple days after, or a week, I'm still like my motivation is still gone. So it's very
Interesting.
dangerous for me to get into too heavily.
Yeah. For me, I started using it medicinally for my depression. So for me, I smoke it in order to kind of get up and be social.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've tried like I've tried experimenting with writing. Like it's really great for like brainstorming stage, and when you actually have to do a lot of disciplined work, I go easier on it. But yeah, I have this dream of really being a part of advocating cannabis in Korea because
Mm.
I really think Grace,
Yeah.
I really think it can help Koreans.
Koreans used to be stoners. They used to smoke
Kanja.
hash
Now, are you talking to like early night, like way back in the
way
day,
back in the
or
day. Yeah, when it was still an
yeah,
agrarian country. They smoked
yeah?
hash all the time.
What did they call it? Do you know the word? I mean, like kanja. Like my mom knows the word kanja.
There's a
I don't
word.
know. Well, I'll look it up.
I mean, the slang
But I
for it
mean,
is tol, but I think it's more for weed.
yes,
Yeah.
my little box with my weed stuff in it. I wrote outside. Duh.
But yeah, like Koreans used to smoke hash. But actually, last year or something, I saw some news that Seoul is trying to make medicinal marijuana legal.
I found a rapper named Big Stacks who is very much like doing the kind of work to re-educate people about weed, and he got
Yeah.
people to sign petition and
Yeah,
stuff.
Korea needs to remember its past. Remember
Yes,
your
okay.
past. Remember a more chill past before you guys were all killing yourselves because you drink too much booze. You were a weed
Yeah.
nation.
I mean, booze is, I know it has its purposes, but I
It's
think
a
if a
killer.
lot of us could move away some, yeah,
It's like the Korean work system is designed to kill people off. Like you have very demanding work hours, right? Like just only recently Moon Jae-in reduced the work hours down to 50 a week. Reduced it
yeah,
down to 50 a week. Only
yeah.
recently. And like they have a fucking hishik duties, which is it requires a lot of drinking, a lot of
Yeah.
forced interaction with people that you would rather just like not hang out with,
Yeah.
like 2차, 3차, 4차, you know? And
Yeah.
and then you have to go to work the next day, lack of sleep, too much alcohol, too much stress, too much
I
work.
mean, functioning alcoholism is prevalent in
Prevalent in
Korea.
Korea. But then alcoholism isn't really considered that big of an issue in Korea. They don't really consider
I
it
did
a
look up,
disease.
there are AA meetings that happen, but
It's not in the mainstream.
it's not in the mainstream, and I think culture and media and art is the way to introduce these things. But my friend, wait, we have our mutual friend Hyung-suk.
Mm.
So I have been roommates with him
Mm-hmm.
for years now. So he's
Mm-hmm.
in Korea, but I live in the apartment that he still is living in.
Oh wow.
Um, but yeah, we have I mean, we go way back to our early 20s college
Yes.
years. But
Yes.
he told me that there is a shift happening in Korea, that where drinking, at least in his kind of artist circles, like where it's not as forced, it's not as obligatory, and people respect sobriety a little more.
Isn't that interesting that the artists are the ones who are the most woke when it comes to drinking? And they
Yeah.
this whole time they thought, oh, artists are the biggest boozers. And it's like, yeah, well, not so much now. It's like we need to be able to do our art, make our art. And when we're not in a functional
Yeah.
state, it's hard to do that.
I also just think when it comes to healing parts of our souls, it's not true for everybody, but weed, I think, has the potential of, you know, finding an in way into some sort of healing, whereas I don't think
Mm-hmm.
alcohol has
Mm-mm.
that quality.
No, alcohol just makes you very
It just,
anxious.
yeah,
It
just cover up all the pain and,
cover it up,
ah!
cover it up, and then the next morning you just deal with the shame of it, and like,
I saw you chug down some chamisu in your videos too, no?
oh my God, that was in March when I made the chamisu video when I was drinking and doing the Johnny Yoon video. That was in March. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That I was getting very loaded for to do. Yeah.
I still very much like miss the sensation of snapping my wrist like this.
After some samgyeopsal.
Yeah. But yeah, I personally have stopped drinking because it doesn't mesh well with my antidepressant medication.
It's a bad combination. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's
But
good. I'm glad to
yeah, I
hear
mean
that.
it's that's going to be a task for me, like what is it going to be like to be back in that world where I was mostly drunk, and my friends are all huge drinkers too. I'm sure now they they have kids and stuff, so they don't drink as much, but like what is it going to be like to revisit that space without
Yeah,
alcohol?
I'm excited for you to find out.
Yeah,
And like, what
yeah,
kind of people will you now encounter now that you're not boozing as much, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, this one another thing that kind of really sparks my heart is early this last year, 2020, before the
Yeah.
quarantine, I was just going down like a YouTube black hole.
Yeah.
No, this was a bright hole actually. And there were some documentary videos done on queer people in Korea in their 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them were like queer lesbians, and
Yes.
some of them didn't want to be, some of them wanted to stay anonymous, so they would just like show footage of them talking with their hands and stuff.
Yeah.
But there was a group of them, and this one woman, I forgot her name, but she is like late 60s, like kind of, yeah, very much dressed like, presenting more masculine and like non-binary. And
Yeah.
she had run a wine bar. She ran a bar in, I think it was Itaewon. No, Mo, where's that neighborhood? Famous kalguksu. Myeongdong, Myeongdong,
명동.
Myeongdong. So and then, but yeah, she's kind of this figure in that world, and I just kind of like burst into tears. Like I
Yeah.
never thought that I could see an older queer person
Yeah.
living in their body in Korea. And, I learned these words, chimashi, pajishi.
Oh, is that femme and
They
mask?
would, yeah, isn't that good? Like
Wow.
they would, when they're talking, she was, all together, they would talk about that stuff.
And
Like, oh,
casually,
she
right?
was a
I
chimashi.
love that.
Yeah. And like, wait, I know it's like binary, but like it's a very cute
It
expression
is.
for femme and mask.
It
Yeah.
is. I love that. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. And
I'll send you
actually,
the
yeah.
video.
Yeah.
I'll send you the
Please
video.
send it. I love that. I think years ago, it might have been 10 years ago, there was this show called Daughters of Bilitis on KBS, and it was a drama
Oh,
about a lesbian community. Yeah.
interesting.
Very short
Oh.
miniseries, like maybe 6, 7 episodes or something. I've been looking for it everywhere. I can't find it, but
Some shows I just can't find.
that's the shitty thing is like, yeah, there's a lot that, especially like for you and I, because like during our adolescent years we watched these like old school Korean dramas, and like especially during lockdown, like I just feel nostalgic for some kind of comfort in the past, and I want to dig them up, and a lot of them are hard to find. Like even Pyorin
That's why
Negasume
I've
was
been
hard to
just,
find.
yeah, that's why I just go on YouTube and there's like they have these like 옛날 drama,
The
like
Yetu,
kind of like
YouTube.
the, what do you call it, little Cliff Note version of it.
Yes. So
Because
so you
I
watched it.
really,
Did you watch it, the Pyorin Negasume on that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was it like
So
revisiting that?
I can't believe this was that popular. It was because it was a huge thing.
Huge. The
I
ratings were
remember
huge.
like in 중학교 1학년, like in seventh grade in
Mm-hmm.
Korea, we went on a field trip and all everybody wanted to do at 10 p.m. was come back from the fireplace and just watch it was the last episode.
Yes.
Um, I mean, I watched it having a lot of feelings. Like,
Oh yeah.
first of all, it's hard not to think about the tragic ending of Choi
Oh my
Jin-sil, the main
God. Rest in
actress.
peace.
Yeah, I mean, this is okay, content warning, suicide.
Yeah.
When I was watching some of the clips, hanging out with my roommates
Mm.
who are Americans, and there was no subtitles, so they're just kind of like we were having fun, kind of like
Mm.
pretending what they know what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, and then I was like, oh, this person committed suicide, and
Mm.
then I just kind of like carefully said, oh, and also her brother committed suicide. And then her
And her
husband committed,
ex-husband.
ex-husband. And then my roommates were convinced I was doing a bit. It's like, no, this is not a bit.
It's
It's
real.
it's true.
It's reality. Imagine being the children of Choi Jin-sil and
I
that
think
baseball
about their
player.
kids, yeah.
Uncle, mother, father, all of them.
And their grandmother, I think, raised. I mean, they must be adults now. I always think about, I hope there was somebody in their life that brought them to therapy. But yeah, so I thought a lot about that, and it was really nice to see. I forgot that Chun Do-yeon was in it.
Dude, Chun Do-yeon, she was so young. How
Before, like,
cute are they with their young? Like they still have the baby fat on their face. It's so cute
yeah, it was before she broke out as a huge like
as
cinema
a
star.
huge
But
star. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, she was great, and I mean, Chain Pyo is a
Chae-pyo.
big fan favorite. I really think he worked on his acting through the years, and
He, of course,
but
of course.
there was a lot of like, like, oh, I loved the kind of like a lot of this.
Yeah, the turning and
Yeah,
there was
the
like turning,
dramatic turns.
dramatically turning and like making sure that your eyes don't meet the camera, like pretending to look at something in the distance that's much more important than the camera. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Chae-pyo has a movie on Netflix, I think. It's called Finding Mr. Cha or something. It's like
Damn, is
a
there a reality show?
no, it's a really weird movie. It's a very
Because I haven't seen.
weird.
Have you seen Soul Searching? I know he was in that movie.
I can't watch it just yet. I don't know. I have
There's some
there's some
issue.
I don't know. There's something I need to get
Gotcha.
over in order to watch it. It's
I
like
see.
whenever like a Korean American makes something, like I need to prepare myself for either disappointment. It's usually disappointment. You know what I mean? So I haven't been able to muster enough courage yet to watch it. But
Yeah, I have. For some reason, that movie I haven't yet visited either. There's some kind of,
Mm,
I think, mental block. I mean,
yes.
sometimes it's jealousy, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do want to. Did you? Oh my God, sorry. Now I'm just
No,
kidding.
it's okay.
If I get too, we're just gossiping.
Go. Yeah.
Did you watch Gook?
Gook I did
By
see.
just
Yeah.
yeah,
I saw it
yeah,
during the festival.
yeah.
I wrote a small
Um.
piece about it.
Oh, gotcha. I see the problematic stuff in it, but I still very much enjoyed it.
Me too. I thought it was an
Yeah,
accomplished movie. It had
yeah.
some problems, but I thought all the performances are really great. Yeah. And I love my favorite thing about that movie is the the chair that he had at his store. He had the beaded wooden beaded seat cover thing that you see in so many Korean
Oh
ajishis
yes.
taxi cabs and shit. That detail, I was like that made the movie for me, you know? Again, this is that internal coding thing, but
The details are very important, I think,
so important.
when we're watching stuff.
It makes
Yeah.
or break a cultural authenticity,
Yeah.
shine or not. It's like it's very
Yeah.
very important.
I'm excited for and hope it comes out great. Peter Kim, you're friends with Peter Kim,
Peter,
right?
yeah. The deadline just announced it. Yeah.
Yeah, cuz
Yeah.
I
Kim
I have
Spa.
been a huge fan of Bobby Lee's
Come on.
his podcast and
Tiger Belly, yeah.
his journey really
His journey's
that he
incredible.
candidly shares. I mean, he was the first Korean who I heard publicly talk about like corporal punishments gone wrong with his Korean father, and it was
Hmm.
just ever since been obsessed with him. But yeah, him really going through, everything from I think he's sober now,
Yeah.
and there he's in therapy, and his
Therapy.
journey with Kalila, his
Hmm.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
I really I want to I don't know what this I want to meet him. I don't know if not necessarily in a work context. I just want to be able to
Just to have a
like
chat with him, right?
chat with him
I
one
know.
day.
Me too.
I'm so curious if we will jive or not.
Yeah. I want to just go to like Korean barbecue with him and just like, talk over kalbi or something. Yeah. I'm sure that day will come. The three of us
I'm
will
sure you will.
we'll
I mean,
get
he should
kalbi
have
with
you on
Bobby Lee.
Tiger Belly. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I love Peter's comedy first of all. Like I think his comedy's amazing.
So great.
And he's like a fun hang too. Like he's really fun to hang out. Like he did this thing right before the shutdown. Like right before it was like in February, I think. Um he organized like an LA Korean American like comedians kind of get together.
Ooh, like a soiree.
Yeah, but like we were gonna meet in K Town, like get tteokbokki and sundae, and then go to noraebang for like hours, right? And he kept telling me and my friend Sam O, he's another Korean American comic out here, super funny, and an amazing writer. He kept telling me and Sam, he's like, "Oh, Steve Yun's gonna be here." And we're like, shut up, dude, shut up. He's like, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm friends with Steve Yun. Like, we met at this thing. He's gonna come. And we're like, okay,
Uh-huh.
dude, shut up. All right, whatever. And like, we were driving from the tteokbokki place to the other place, and we were just like quiet, you know?
Uh-huh,
We're like
uh-huh.
thinking, like, cause he got in our fucking heads.
Exactly.
We were just like, I mean, Peter's bullshitting us. Like, Steve Yun's not gonna be there. Come on, you know? But then, like, there's this desire in us to meet
Yeah.
Steve Yun, you know?
Yes.
And we're just like, but whatever. Like he's full of shit. And we're like, yeah, he's full of shit. He's full of shit. And we park and we go into the noraebang place and we're like hanging out, you know? But like we're still like looking at
Because
the door.
Peter speaks Korean very fluently too, right?
He does, but he speaks like a Queens, like a Flushing boy Korean, you know? Like
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah.
but like yeah, Sam and I, we kept looking at the door, you know, whenever somebody would come in thinking that it might be Steve Young, but we're like, no, like whatever. And then
Yeah.
Peter goes, "You guys, Steve's here. Steve Young's here." And
Oh
we
my
look, and
God.
it's a guy, but it's not Steve Young. And we had to pretend like, "Oh, nice to meet you, Steve. I'm Grace. I'm Sam. I'm so and so." And like Sam and I were looking at each other like
It's a different Stephen Young.
so embarrassed, like a complete like no name kind of who gives a shit guy named Steve that Peter was bullshitting us about like all night just to fuck with us. And like Sam and I were looking at each other with like this look of like humiliation and rage and just
You got pranked.
to this day, Sam and I are like every once in a while we'll be talking about something and then randomly we'll just be like, I'm still like so embarrassed and mad at Peter for pulling that shit on us. Like he had us so good. And
He
we were
probably
just
is
like
friendly with Steven Yeun.
who knows? I mean,
Who
whatevs. I mean,
knows?
I'm excited for that movie Minari with
Oh, it's beautiful. I've seen
yeah,
it.
like Yoon Jung and like fucking what's her name? Eddie? What's her name?
I don't know her. She's been in a lot of
A lot of
K-dramas.
No, she's been in a lot of like Korean indie films.
She
Um,
has that. She has that look.
she's been in so many.
I was very moved by the
Hanyeri, I think is her
movie.
name. She's an amazing
Yeah,
actress, and she's very versatile too. Yeah,
I've crossed paths with Steven a little bit, and like he's a great guy.
that's what I hear. I hear he's really really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, Yoon Jung, it turns out she speaks English really well
yeah, she's super fluent.
because she used to live here. I
She
think
used to live in
her
the U.S.
sons. Yeah, but it was really cool. She was just like at the Sundance interview. She was just like she speaks very chill. Like she didn't need an
No,
interpreter.
look at she's badass. She's
Badass.
Yoon Jung, badass woman. There's this movie called In Another Country by Hong Sang-soo, and she's in there with
Yeah.
Isabelle Huppert, and she speaks extremely fluent English in that movie.
She's I saw a little bit of like a somebody posted a part of a Q&A of the screener of the Minari like cast like
Yeah.
on Zoom call, and then there's a moment where she just like takes out a e-cig and she just I was like, I see you.
Badass.
Yeah,
Fucking
what a
badass.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's so sexy too.
She is like back in the day when when they were making black and white movies in Korea, she played the sex queen. She played the sexy temptress in all those movies
Yeah.
back in the
And I
day.
always really like paid attention to how when I had so much pimples growing up, like she is one of the very few actresses from that time, even now, who like because she had a lot of like acne marks and stuff, and she yeah, like she's just also now like I don't think she puts a ton of Botox in her face,
Hmm.
like I love actors who have real faces.
The realness, yeah. I like that
Yeah.
too. And she's such an amazing actress. I really enjoy her. Okay, so let me ask you some flashcard questions. I do this flashcard series
Yes.
based on
About 별은 내 가슴에?
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's say you're a lounge singer
Okay.
named Sue trying to
Uh-huh.
make it. You're trying to make it as a K-pop star, okay?
Uh-huh.
But a man who's like trying to be your manager or whatever, he tells you that your breasts are too small for the industry. What do you do?
I'm gonna tell him his penis is too small to be my manager.
It's a great answer.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. This is not meant to be. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, so let's say you're a handsome executive, right? Chainpyo, right? Of a fashion line who came across a woman who looks exactly like your ex-girlfriend from Italy. She looks like spitting image. What do you do?
But it's clear that it's not the same person, right?
Right. But it's like confusing. It's like they're identical. What do you do?
Yeah. Did they ever address that
Yeah.
in the show?
Yeah.
Well, what
Chijin had to play two roles. Yeah. She
she
played
did, but like, are they twins separated by birth, or just people who look eerily similar?
it's just a doppelganger. Yeah.
Doppelganger.
Yeah.
Okay, if I was him in that situation, if I still have a lot of unresolved feelings from that relationship, and if this new person who looks just like my ex happens to be in my life, I would forge a somewhat, friendship and be transparent about it. Like, hey, you look so much like my ex, just to let you know. And yeah, kind of see. I don't think I would pursue a romantic relationship. If anything, I would fight against it because it's a little creepy, I think.
It is. It is
Yeah,
creepy. Yeah.
yeah. But I would be friends with her, or I would be like, "Hey, can I read a letter to you that I wrote to my ex that she disappeared, so I never, sent it. But can I just read it out loud to you? You don't have to
Jesus.
do anything."
Yeah. Oh my God. If I was the woman in that situation, I would run for the hills. If a man was like, "You look like my ex-girlfriend. Can I read a letter to you that she wrote to me?" I would call the police and run.
That's very true. That's very true. And I would say, "Hey, I'll pay you. How about $200? It's gonna take 5 minutes, okay?"
Yeah, then yeah, that's doable. 200 bucks, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
That's a good buck.
it's a really good
Yeah,
buck.
5 minutes, two hundred
Yeah.
dollars. Like doctors make like that much money, right? Like a dentist makes 200 bucks in 5 minutes, right? All right, great. Okay, I like that. All right, so let's say you're the son of a wealthy father, but you want to become a singer. Okay, that's your dream. But your dad keeps beating the shit out of you with a golf club to stop you from pursuing this path in entertainment. Keeps calling you tantara. Huh?
That's right, tantara.
Tantara, what do you do?
I would. I mean, I would leave. I would. I would just like move. I would move
Mm.
to a different country.
Mm.
I would probably go to New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Imagine,
Um
yeah, Anjuk in New York.
yeah, well, isn't also he is like the son of like a girlfriend of his, right? He's not like, yeah,
A girlfriend or ex-wife, yeah.
ex-wife,
I think
yeah.
ex-wife, yeah. She was a movie star back in
Oh,
the
that's
day. She was
right.
an actress.
Who is now
Yeah,
institutionalized.
mentally
Yeah.
ill. Yeah.
Um yeah, I was trying to think of something funny to say to that, but I think just
It's too real. It's too close to home.
I mean, it is for me. Like, I think yes, I came to New York to be an actor, blah blah, whatever. But I wanted to like have a big distance between my
I
family
understand
and
that.
myself, and it really, I think that distance has helped me
Mm.
get to a place of like coming back home.
Mm-hmm. I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah, which is why you're now able to go back and like, help
yeah,
nurse your father and all this. Yeah. I
yeah,
like that.
willingly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay, great. So you're an orphan girl, right? Start of every K-drama premise, orphan girl. She's an orphan. You're
Always,
an orphan girl
always.
living with
Yeah.
another family, right?
Uh-huh.
And you have a knack for sewing and designing your own dresses, and you've been pursuing this on your own, okay, with spare dresses that they're going to throw away. And
Yeah.
one day, the woman that you live with comes into your workspace angrily and tears up all of your hard work and insults your dead mother. What do you do?
Um I'm going to I'm going to hit her. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't think the police would be helpful.
Right.
What would I do? I'll take a video of it for sure and blast it on social media.
Yeah.
But I will also make art out of that destruction. I
Oh.
will somehow patch all those ripped up fabrics
Mm.
and make a quilt
Mm.
and probably line it with some toxic chemicals and
Mm-hmm.
send it to her.
Yes. Yes. This is your weighted blanket.
I'll make it into a weighted
Yeah.
blanket.
Yes. I like this. That's a
I
great.
love the I love the actress who plays
Oh,
the evil kind of
she's amazing.
lady.
She
Yeah.
she was also like kind of the sexy temptress woman back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much
And
so.
now she's so versatile. She plays like big personality always, right? Like,
Yes.
you
She
know.
plays a lot of like ex big actress kind of like older diva.
Yep, diva. She's got that diva quality to her,
Yeah.
rich mama kind of thing. But I was watching All In recently, and she plays like a poor lady, but like a 술집 아줌마, and she's like
Oh.
really good at that too. She's amazing as that.
우리는 was with Lee Byung-hun, Song Hye-kyo.
Yes,
My
yes,
God. Oh, that's an oldie too.
oldie, yeah, oldie. But that was also written by a man, and I was like, oh, okay, like I understand now why like I didn't really gravitate towards Hong Ye-kyu's character as much. You know, it was more about
Yeah.
like Lee Byung-hun and his brotherhood and all
Yeah.
that shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great. I like, but I think that's a beautiful answer to be like, I'm gonna make art out of the stuff that she tore up.
Yeah. That's what I like to do. Like the other day,
Yeah.
I was making gnocchi,
Mm.
and it was just a frozen gnocchi pack from Whole Foods, and I followed the instruction. It just all clumped up together.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, it didn't cook, so it was still doughy. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna throw this away. And I put it in a Tupperware.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a failure, but then I like turned it into I flattened them and I fried them.
Nice.
Yeah.
See?
So I don't know. I like sometimes get really like, okay, I admit this is a failure or destruction, but I'm gonna do something with it.
Oh, I love that. That is such a productive, like, beautiful way to live life, you know?
Oh,
Rather
thank
than
you.
bang
Yeah.
your head against the wall of failure, be
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
let's look for a different outcome.
Yeah. Like for example, like I used to get really scolded pretty hard as a child when I would like my brother I would like spill juice or milk on the floor.
Yeah.
And like no, if it happens, like use that as a do something kooky with
Make
it
art
with
with
your kid.
it, mom and
Yeah.
dad. Don't catastrophize spilled milk. It's not that big of a deal. Just make
Right? You
art.
just have to mop it up.
So last flashcard question. Let's say you're the same orphan girl. Okay, you're Choi Jin-sil's character, right? And you're dating Kang Min, played by An Jae-wook, right? With the hair,
The hot pop star.
the hair in his eyes, you know.
That I mean, everybody looks like an anime character in that show.
Yeah, it's like get the hair out of your eyeballs. It is so 답답해 looking at you right now. But so
I can't do it. Like I literally when I used to have longer hair and would kind of try to do the hiding my big ass round face, like I can't even like finish a sentence. Like
it's so 답답해.
hi, I'm like, do you see how small and thin my face is?
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're dating Kang Min, right?
Yes.
And you're very much in love with him, okay? Like this homeboy fucking flew to Italy while you were on a business trip to tell you how much he loves you, okay? But like his dad sent some money to you and told you to stop seeing him and to know your place. What do you do?
That's a very common device in Korean dramas. Do we know how much the money is? Is it quite a significant amount?
We don't know. It's probably some like 10 grand.
I would take the money, to be honest.
Yeah, of course.
I would take the money, and then if I still wanted to have some fun times with him, we could, we
Yeah.
could do it on the down low.
Yeah.
Do it on the down low, like a lot of under the table
Yeah.
stuff. But,
Yeah.
because even love is. I like to think that love doesn't have to be so permanent.
Exactly.
No matter how long it lasts.
Yeah.
It's good. So yeah, it's gonna fade anyway.
Yeah.
Let me get some money out of it.
Yeah, why not? It's like, thank you, Dad. 10 grand, you know? Why not?
I might, if I was in that situation, I would negotiate with the father to like, okay, I'll completely disappear for your son's life. I need a little more money.
Yeah, 100 grand,
Yeah.
and I will be out of the
Yes.
picture. Yeah,
Yes.
I will leave the town. He will never hear from me. 100 grand. Yeah, that's what I would do too. Like whenever these girls are like prideful and they're like, you know what? I will leave your son. I do not need your money. I'm like, yes, you do. You need that money
Right? It's
so
they
badly.
think it's such an insult, but like, it's given to me. I'm not stealing it. Let's take it.
Yeah, this is an agreement that we're gonna, get to. Okay, it's a deal.
And also, I understand that if you grow up like extremely poor and under these underprivileged situations, I think there is more ego wrapped up around that. But I'm a big fan of taking money.
Me too. Yeah, it's like we've seen life, and it's like, you know what? Money's always better. Right? Yeah.
Oh my god! And the word nallari, I thought about a lot.
For who?
Nallari.
For Anju?
Yeah, because his dad would call him that. Did they also use the word tantaria, tantara?
Yeah, he kept calling him tantara. He's like, you're gonna get into that
Yeah.
tantara shit,
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna be just like your,
I mean,
your mother. Yeah.
A friend of mine, Korean friend of mine, Kaihan Kim, she's an actress. She like proudly uses that word. What do you think about that word, tantara?
I don't have like any feelings associated with that word because I'm not of that time period when tantara was
Yeah,
used as like a derogatory expression. You know, maybe tantara
yeah,
is now like reappropriated, kind of like the word queer. You know, it's like been
yeah.
reappropriated by the community and it's like something to be proud of. But
She's like, yeah, I'm a tantara.
yeah, like back then, you know, everybody was hustling and being an entertainer was just as much part of the hustle. So I don't see it as like a negative thing. The word
Yeah,
tantara, it's an onomatopoeia for a trumpet
right?
sound. Yeah, that's all it is.
Yes, I love that word actually.
It's a great
Tantara,
word.
tanta. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like our language has the best onomatopoeias.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that the word? Yeah,
Onomatopoeia, yeah.
onomatopoeias.
It's like an emotive language. That's what
Yeah.
a linguist said. She was like, it's an emotive language, emotional language is what Korean is. And I was like, oh.
When my roommates were peeking at the clips, they the shots. There's so many shots that are kind of cool when you look at it now. Like it's not typical shots that they would frame for like a romance story.
Hmm.
There's a lot of like sweeping kind of action shots. But one of my roommates said it reminds him of Twin Peaks.
Oh,
So that was an interesting observation.
that is interesting. How
Yeah,
so?
yeah.
Just like the
It's like
camera work?
the score, the very like kind of melodramatic score that comes in, and two
Interesting.
people kind of like talking about things where sometimes it doesn't really go anywhere with a lot of extra long pauses.
That's funny. That's funny that he said it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. It was very slow back then, huh? It's like,
I remembered it being a lot more like faster paced,
hmm
but that was the shocking part. Like, because I actually did watch the whole first episode, just finding clips
not a
on
lot was
YouTube.
going on. Yeah.
It's not,
It
yeah,
was just sitting still, like making faces and
yeah,
or they're like spacing out and there's like music, a full song playing,
totally,
3.5 minutes, right?
yeah.
Like how many fucking times did they play Kang Min's song in that?
Oh my
Like
God.
literally, they played it 3 times every single episode.
Really? To that extent.
It's like
It's
so
funny.
much.
Do you like him as a singer?
I mean, I like that song that he sings at the end of 별은 내 가슴에 when he's like coming off the stage and
Yeah.
walking towards her, right? It's like
Yeah.
iconic, that moment, right? In that song.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not like a particular fan of An jae honestly.
Yeah. I um doing this prompted me to look him up on Instagram, and I did
Oh,
start following Anjuk, the
yeah.
actor.
He's a dad
He's
now,
he's
right?
aged pretty well. Like
Yeah.
he does a lot of musicals. He yeah, he has a child, a
Yeah.
family. I like to kind of I've been doing that a lot. Like, do you remember Son Ji-chang?
No.
He was an actor. Oh my God, you should check out this miniseries called 느낌.
느낌? Okay.
느낌.
Okay.
My mom wouldn't let me watch it back then.
Was that an
I was like in
SBS?
KBS probably. But
Hmm.
it's like these three brothers who all have a crush on the same girl. Son Ji-chang is one of the brothers, but yeah, he's an actor who he was in 마지막 승부. Do you
Oh,
know that basketball movie? I mean,
yeah. Of
basketball show?
course, of course. With Jang Dong-gun.
Yes, and Shimuna, that was her first role. I still remember the opening title. Ba bum
Bum,
bum
bum,
bum
bum,
bum
bum,
bum bum
ba-da,
bum ba da
ba-da-dum.
da da.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So he
Iconic.
was in that too. But yeah, now he doesn't really act as much, but he does like some business stuff. But it's kind of weird to see how somebody ages and changes.
Yeah. I was looking at Ryu Siwon a little bit because I mean, he was like that church oppa looking guy, you know? Whenever a church oppa I encountered looked a little bit like Lee Shi-won, I was like instantly in love with him. I'm like, oh my God,
Wait, this
motherfucker.
is really funny because there was literally a church oppa that looked like him in
Always, in
Maryland.
every church, there was a Ryu Shi-won looking oppa there.
Oh my God,
And
that's
I was always
hilarious.
in love with him. Whenever they had like fucking revivals and shit at another church, I'd be like getting fucking primed and proper. Gonna go and find me
Wow.
my Ryu Shi-won looking oppa. Yes.
Is he still acting, Yushuan?
He's not, because this poor thing, he got caught up in some shitty ass scandal with his ex-wife. Like
Oh
she accused him
shit.
of abuse, of stalking, of being physically assaulting and all this, and he quit acting for good in
Damn.
2010 or something, and
Uh-huh.
I think he's only been
Okay.
singing in like Japan or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of Korean celebrities who no longer are working, do you know that director Kim Gi-duk passed away recently?
I do.
I was so shocked. I knew about how he got Me Too'd massively.
Yeah.
And yeah, he died of COVID in
Yep,
December.
died of COVID. And all these like film scholar people, like Korean film scholars and translators, they were all like, I'm not gonna talk about Kim Ki-duk's death. I'm like, bitch, you are right now by posting this fucking thing. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna talk about him because he was abusive to women. I was like, first of all, what a really shitty thing to do to speak ill of the dead the moment he dies. And second, like, you bitches were all teaching his movies in your fucking classes. So don't fucking backpedal now and try to be all like righteous and shit now that he's dead and you don't have to fear consequences or backlash potentially from him or somebody that he knows in the industry. I just found it really disgusting and cowardly and awful. You know, it's like, yeah, he made those shitty mistakes. Nobody doubts that. Everybody knows it. It is awful what he did. And I think the women should be, compensated and justice should be upheld. But he's a dead man. He literally died like now. And
Right.
why are you talking shit about him now? You should have been talking shit about him before when you were teaching his misogynistic movies in your fucking classes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand the point of like you can talk about his death and also talk reflect on how on the Me Too movement and how it must be changed. This cowardly like oh we shouldn't even talk this anxious cowardly energy. It's like
Exactly.
oh yeah yeah
That I'm not
that
into.
bothers me too.
This is something. I mean, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But like, I know like what a big fan of Louis C.K. you were, and so was I.
Yeah
But like, how
yeah.
did you deal with that news?
Um it was kind of it was funny that my a lot of my friends because I talk so much about loving him were like checking in with me.
Mm,
It was disappointing. Actually, before the whole thing broke out, like I was hearing rumors
mm-hmm.
and talks of it, and
I think everybody was to some extent. They were
yeah, I
kind of.
think I kind of had to do a certain mode of like mourning,
Mm-hmm.
um, like this person that I really looked up to, and yeah, and I still kind of, I definitely sometimes still think of his jokes
Yeah.
or things like that, and but to be honest, I also still do watch his content.
Mm-hmm.
When he because he sends out emails
Right.
um yeah when it first broke out actually the you know how the email that people use when they're just sending out promotion stuff
Mm-hmm.
it was like info@louisck.net or
Mm-hmm.
whatever but I knew that it wouldn't get to it but I just said oh I hope oh in his new comedy special that he released it he talks about his mother passed away
Mm-hmm.
like shortly after his whole thing happened
Mm-hmm.
so I just kind of like said oh I'm sorry for your loss
Mm,
yeah
yeah.
so yeah, it's sad to think about him, but also I hope life goes on for him too,
Yeah. It
and
is
I
going
think
on for
cause
him. You know.
yeah, cause I often think about like what would I do if my brother or a close cishet friend, cishet guy, gets me too in that situation. Like
Exactly.
I'm not going. If anything, I'm not going to abandon my friend at that moment. Like
Exactly.
if anything, that is the moment that my a friend needs me the most.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean that I'm going to defend him.
Yeah.
I'm going to help him face his bullshit and heal
Yeah.
and get better.
100%.
So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Okay. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And I think it's
Yeah.
important to understand like that full picture, um, being a feminist, being a woman and all of that. It's like, but there's still a bigger picture to all of this, and I'm trying to find the answers to that too, because like, it can't just
Yeah.
end at a point of rage and canceling. Like that's not
Mhm.
progressive enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so nice talking to you.
I know. We should I'll hit you up after this in the next few days. Let's have another
Yeah.
kiki sesh.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Next week, we're going to talk about the hit show Kingdom, which is on Netflix. 2 seasons are already out. It is a zombie TV show set in the Joseon Dynasty. So it's a period piece with zombies. How fun, how out there. And I believe Chun Ji-hyun will be in the 3rd season of this show, which is very, very exciting. Huge Hallyu actress. And yeah, we'll be getting into that. So prepare yourselves by watching Kingdom. It's a really great show, so get into it. And as always, folks, if you have questions for me, please just email me. Send me an email, kdramaschool@gmail.com. Visit our website at kdramaschool.com. Follow me at kdramaschool on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We upload a lot of content up there that you could check out. Yeah, if you can, just, maybe subscribe on Apple and leave this podcast 5 stars. It wouldn't hurt. It's a nice thing to do. Why not? Please subscribe on YouTube. Just click subscribe. It's one button. You just click it. Just 1 second. Click. That's it. That's all it takes. Please do that if you can. And I really appreciate all of your support. I appreciate you listening every week. I appreciate you. And I will talk to you all next week.